Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. You may notice a different setting today. Normally, I'm in my studio, but today I'm actually in my home studio and kicking off a series where we're going to be doing the show on the road a few more times. Excited to see some different faces and places in different areas, and it's going to be fantastic to see some new folks out there. But wanted to spend some time today talking a little bit about the world of live entertainment and how the technology side of things and the creative side of things really are starting to blend together on a much more granular level. And if you've been kind of following the AV news cycle lately, you've seen that Epson and Cirque du Soleil have partnered together officially as having Epson as the official projection provider for the Cirque team. We'll dig into that a little bit more today, talk about some of the implications not only of that partnership specifically, but how partnerships in general in our industry continue to impact things like innovation, creativity, but also long-term things like sustainability and industry influence and impact today. So wanted to bring on a couple of folks to dig in a little bit deeper in that partnership specifically today. And that's Jason Meyer from Epson and Christopher Whelan from Cirque du Soleil. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming on.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you,
Ben.
Well, Christopher, I want to have you kick us off here because I know, folks may be kind of curious why we're having a conversation with Cirque du Soleil and talking specifically about granular technology and hardware providers. So I got to ask, obviously working with folks like Epson are incredible partners, but what kind of started the conversation for this partnership? Was it a need for more reliable, sustainable, robust technology? And how did that conversation even start?
At Cirque, when we create shows, we start years in advance sometimes. And, technology is very important. It's an important storytelling tool. And our sort of direct access to the manufacturers, that's paramount. It's we can always go and leverage and just kind of learn about what's coming up. We may get some insight into what may be coming out a few years down the road. That really helps us sort of shape how we develop the system and just try to get the best that we can and not just kind of, place an order when the times come to place an order. We're designing very early. So that's where I think a relationship with a manufacturer like Epson is really key and really beneficial to show design and show production.
Well, and Jason, kind of the same question to you, right? Coming from the manufacturing side of the world, obviously Epson serves a million different markets, it seems like, live entertainment being one of those core markets. Why is it so important to partner with some of those entertainment companies directly, especially as a manufacturer?
Yeah, for us, when the opportunity arose to enter into this partnership, we've spent a tremendous amount of resources in the last decade developing, world-class high brightness projection systems. And we want to be partnered with, a global leader in live events. And I can't think of another brand that has a stronger presence globally in live events than Cirque du Soleil. So that's really for Epson. That's what drove our decision to enter into this partnership.
Well, Jason, I tend to agree with you. And Christopher, I think that's a testament really to not only the name that Cirque du Soleil brings, but the impact that it brings far beyond just places like Vegas, right? There's touring shows, there's different IPs, all sorts of different properties kind of baked into that world of Cirque du Soleil. But I wanted to ask, right? I want to get a little bit more technical. When we talk about projection and creativity, I think it's, people talk about projection mapping and all sorts of different applications, but what are some practical use cases now, especially, stepping into the back half of the 2020s here? What are some of the practical applications and use cases where you're seeing projection being leveraged in a lot of these live entertainment spaces and shows?
For us at Cirque, you go to see a show and you can see projection, but sometimes there's the projection that you don't immediately see. And that may not seem like something very practical, but we're sometimes really using it to enhance scenery. There's the obvious mapping stuff, and that's all great. You can take a costume, you can take a piece of scenery, you can take a piece of property, whether it be hard or soft, you can bring it to life. You can give it a whole other character And, being a digital art form, you're always allowed to kind of like change these things sort of like on the fly. But sometimes it's just these little bells and whistles. We're taking scenery that's been, hand painted or it's digital printed, and these are beautiful. But sometimes there's just these layers that are just kind of laid over top, and they're little pops or little enhancements, or just changing how it looks if it's lit from a different direction, or and those are the sort of like the subtle ways that we use it, and they're not immediately obvious, but I think it's part of sort of like what has our guests leave the shows and go, wow, they're just it just takes the amazement, I think, to another level, and they can't exactly pinpoint why or how. I think that's one of the maybe the best case use I could describe. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see, and obviously kind of being in the world of live entertainment, I get to see a lot of different use cases and applications. But what's cool about projection technology is it feels like it's being treated more, kind of like you mentioned, as a light source than just kind of an overlay, right? What can you do creatively with a projector? Well, okay, you can manipulate the light, you can change the shadows, you can in some cases create your own shadows, and there's all sorts of different things that you can do with it. And Jason, I want to ask from a technological perspective, right? Obviously, luminance values and increases in technology and cost and efficiency and, power effectiveness and things like that are driving some of this. But what are some of those main technological drivers and capabilities that are allowing people like Cirque to really better leverage it as a light source in general than just maybe just a static toss something on a projection screen and call it a day?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change in projection technology was the move from traditional UHP lamp based. These are the kind of think light bulb, right? For those that aren't in the industry, right? The traditional lamp based to laser based technology. It was a huge, shift in technology and innovation in the projection space, and enabled us to get more power efficient. And over time, the laser diodes themselves have gotten smaller and smaller. So we spend a lot of time and resources innovating around the technology. So whether it's our panel technology getting more efficient, being able to get higher resolution out of our panel technologies, to the backlight technology, which is now laser, is much more power efficient. It's about a 50% power savings over lamp. And then even as we've iterated to smaller and smaller laser diode packages, so the actual diodes themselves that are creating the light have gotten more efficient. So we've seen over the last few years like a 30% efficiency gain in the laser diodes themselves. So we had a big shift from lamp to laser, but then now even the lasers are getting more efficient. So there's a lot of changes going on. And then laser enables you to do a lot. It enables you to do more things with the technology than you could with lamp based, primarily because it doesn't generate nearly as much heat. So we've been able to shrink the size of the overall projector dramatically over the last few years. So the projector's gotten much, much smaller, which enables guys like Christopher to integrate them into their shows more seamlessly, where people cannot see the projector. I mean, even a few years ago, a 20,000 lumen projector could weigh in excess of 100 pounds. Now we're, 50% of that weight, right? Or more, depends on which lumen band you're talking about. But there's all sorts of efficiencies that came with shifting to laser.
Jason, I want to ask, obviously you've got entertainment providers, whether it's, folks like Cirque or touring providers or, rental houses across the world, right? Trying to really embrace a lot of these standards because, transparently there's cost savings in it, but there's also climate potential savings in there as well. How do you take on that burden as a manufacturer, right? Or is it something that is almost a natural byproduct of technological innovation, or is it something really that's a core focus from the product design standpoint?
Yeah, well, both really, right? So, the innovation allows us to become more efficient, but as the housings get smaller, we don't use as much plastic, right? We're looking. Epson is a Japanese company. We've been around for a long time, and Epson's a leader in sustainability globally. We're frequently recognized as a leader in global sustainability for manufacturers, and so we're constantly looking at ways to improve our sustainable footprint, whether it be in our facilities, shifting to more recycled content in our products themselves, shifting away from, like on the printer side, shifting away from traditional ink cartridges to ink tanks, so you're not throwing as much plastic away. I mean, across all of our product lines, we're constantly looking for ways to become a more sustainable company.
Well, Christopher, hearing that almost excites me, right? And I'm not even officially the partner with Epson yet, but what's cool about having a partner that is having those conversations and is thinking ahead is it actually makes your life easier. It allows you to think further ahead. And I want to ask, kind of from that creative standpoint, obviously folks like Epson continue to invest heavily in the R&D side of things and the capability side of things. But, when it comes to maybe designing a show or maybe retrofitting or redesigning maybe some existing elements in shows, do you typically work from the idea or the kind of design side backwards, or do you start with the technology, right? Since you have a partner like Epson, do you say, hey, this is a capability that we can expect to see, let's see what we can do with it? Or is it more, hey, we need to try and mold the technology to meet a need that we're trying to execute on? Or maybe it's both.
Yeah, I would say it could be both. At Cirque, obviously we're leveraging all sorts of technology. I would say it's generally born from the idea. What is the experience that we're trying to offer our guests? And technology becomes sort of like a participant in that. We will rarely, I'd say, use technology to showcase technology, right? We want to sort of embed it and integrate it in ways that maybe people might not have thought of. And sometimes they're very sort of subtle, invisible ways. And people are left guessing, how did this happen? How did he create this image? Or so sometimes a little bit of both. I'd say, as projection became, I started in this business like 30 years ago, and I saw, projection go from, film scrolls and acetates and people masking physically with black tape. And, when digital came in, it was like, oh, wow, things are getting easier now. And then quickly things became much, much more complex because our human nature is just to expand and bring in 3D computing. And now the projector is just like a tool set to create all kinds of stuff. From effects to storytelling to, you name it. So, of course, it's very important, as I said before, for us to kind of know what's coming up. And we have worked, we will work with Epson and kind of provoke and ask and try to, maybe influence some evolution in the technology. Absolutely. But generally, we're born from the idea. The show creation is sort of like key, and we're not trying to let it be swayed by technology, but it's obviously a very, very important player. Without it, we wouldn't have the shows that we have today, for sure.
Well, that's a great point, Christopher, and I appreciate you kind of sharing that context. And Jason, I want to ask too, as a manufacturer, right? Obviously, it's I don't know that rare is the right word, but it's not super common for a projector to be the only piece of technology in a show, right? Whether it's, all of your RF frequencies, your audio, your visual, heck, even sometimes you're competing with an LED wall, right? How important is that, especially from a feedback standpoint where you have a partner like Cirque, to learn how the projector is being used in an ecosystem standpoint instead of just, hey, how are you using this specific projector? How does that give you some larger context into the larger use case?
Well, for us, it's the most important thing. I mean, I think what Christopher says encapsulates exactly why Epson wants to partner with Cirque du Soleil, because for Epson, for Seiko Epson Corporation, voice of the customer is everything. I could give you a laundry list of features that are in a lot of our product lines that are a direct result of customer feedback. And so by partnering, as we grow our footprint in live events, I mean, we're the leading projector manufacturer in the world today, but we want to continue to grow our footprint in live events. And to do that, we need to be partnered with a world-class partner in live events that can give us that feedback. It's the little things that make a difference to guys like Christopher, because if we can't provide the right contrast ratio or our lens selection isn't broad enough or whatever, right? It's those things that make a difference to people who are producing these live events. It's not, what's the latest color of your projector, or it's the features and refining the features of these of this hardware that is super important to us in the live events market.
Agreed. Well, and Christopher, even Jason mentioned as well, obviously Cirque is very well known for its excellence, but I think, in my opinion, as somebody who's kind of been in the live events and broadcast and touring and concerts world, Cirque is well known, especially within the AV and kind of crew community, for its level of technical excellence, right? Because, you can go on a cruise ship and you can go in a number of different places and see something that works, right? And 75% of the audience, maybe even 80% of the audience, will never know the difference. But you go into a Cirque show and you see that level of technical excellence, execution, cleanliness, that level of value in there. And that's one of the things that I've always really respected about the Cirque product as well. And, you talk about partnerships with manufacturers, and you talk about always, I don't know that always innovating technology is the right way to describe it, but always making sure that there's excellence in technology. And I want to ask too, as both a fan and an advocate, what are some of the ways that people can expect to see technologies, whether it's projection or whether it's something else, continue to be leveraged in the Cirque portfolio moving forward? And how can some of those folks like myself go watch a show like Ka or Michael Jackson 1 and embrace some of those just fantastic technical excellence capabilities in there?
Yeah, that was a good question. I'm trying to see into the future. I mean, if we look at, the projector, as I mentioned before, is becoming, you can just do more with it because of all the associated technology, and that in turn kind of provokes, more innovation of the projector. But definitely, computing power, real-time processing, the demand for immersive, I don't want to use the buzzwords, but the sort of like the experiential events, the user input, right? More and more, the audience is becoming a user. They're becoming a participant in the story, and more and more they want to sort of like choose their own story. So to have, projectors, everything that we talked about, to have them compact and low heat, we can hide them, we can do all kinds of sort of trickery with the projector. It's going to give us the tool set to sort of deliver those experiences, and I think there's just going to be more and more demand for that. That media layer. I mean, unlike anything else, you can shape a space, you can morph it. We can take a square room, make it round. We can, you can throw light at a far distance on a mountain, on a building. You can do so much with the projector that you can't do with a TV or an LED screen. The projector is like set apart from, I think, any other show technology out there.
It really is. And Jason, I want to ask, obviously you see things like the Sphere, and you see a lot of these structural things like LED walls and all sorts of different applications happening. And Christopher, to your point, there's something about a projector because of its ability really to just manipulate light, right? It is really all it is, but that gives you a certain layer of flexibility and capability that you can't structurally otherwise get. Jason, and I'll land the plane kind of with this. How does that continue to factor into your kind of design process, specifically when it comes to the live event side of things and finding out ways to best serve some of those capabilities in live entertainment providers?
Yeah, I think, well, it's interesting that you brought up the Sphere, because I get asked often about the Sphere, actually. And
as do we all.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. and because, the inside of the Sphere is all DV LED, right? But to me, I think the Sphere is great for us. It's great for our industry. It's great for live events in general, because it highlights, like Cirque is doing, it highlights the power of this sort of immersive audio, video, visual experience, right? And so for us, whether Cirque is using DV LED or projection, or most people use a combination of both, or other AV technologies, to us, it's all good, because it's driving this the public's need for this type of entertainment. And as far as we go, looking into the future, we have this principle in Japanese. It's called shoshosei. So it's compact, precise, efficient. That's what drives all of our innovation. So that's why you're seeing everything getting smaller and more efficient and more precise. And the precise part of it is really resolution, right? So now we're able to put 8 million pixels on screen. That's 4K, which is super important for, large screen experiences, because guys like Christopher, they want pixel density, right? You have a huge screen, you need to deliver very high resolution to do that. And projection technology can do that. And it's another thing I get asked is like, what's the latest technology in AV? And it's actually projection.
Yes,
because
would agree.
The ability to put 4 million or 8 million pixels on screen using a projector with a 1-inch panel is much, much harder to do than putting 8 million pixels on an 80-inch LCD TV, for example. It's incredibly difficult to achieve from a technology perspective. So that's what we're focused on, is continuing to drive resolution forward, continuing to get the hardware smaller and smaller and more efficient.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been great to have both of you on. And I love the way that you put it, Jason. We, as a community, are all benefiting from things like Sphere and immersive experiences and all these different applications of technology, because it really has intrigued and piqued a lot of interest from people who historically probably wouldn't have been, Christopher, I like it as you said, wouldn't be users or consumers of our technologies or shows or entertainment. And it's really opened up a brand new world for us, where technology has been showcased to really tell a meaningful story and wow people and inspire people in a really new way. And I think that this partnership is going to be the first step in that. And I'll tell you what, I would love to have you both on a future episode, because I can tell you this is the precipice of some great work that's coming down the pipeline. But Jason and Christopher, thanks so much for coming on the show today, and we look forward to having you on soon.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Ben.
And thank you to those listeners out there. We appreciate you tuning in. Can't wait to see you next time. Join us again on Pro AV Today.